Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be working with something a little bit unfamiliar with a medium that I am somewhat familiar with. So a friend of mine from across Canada actually sent me some Shikishi boards. So I'll put the name on the screen just in case if you're not familiar with these, but I've seen a lot of artists use these for alcohol marker drawings, watercolors, pencil crayons, inking a lot, obviously for like signing autographs and stuff. But she sent me two of these large boards, so I thought it'd be fun to use these today with some alcohol markers because I don't know, I've been just having an itch to do more traditional art recently. I don't know if it's because of the spirit of October, Inktober, but I thought it'd be fun to take you guys along with me while I try out this because I don't know how this is going to react, and I didn't really do any planning. So let's go ahead and open this up and then I can show you guys. At least from my knowledge, I believe a Shikishi board is meant for like autograph signings. That's already pre-framed basically. And it's made with rice paper, I think. It did get a little dented on transit, but that's okay. So basically this is the board. It kind of has a gold trim around it, a yellow backing, but on the surface right here has really smooth paper. So I thought it'd be fun to do alcohol markers on this. Now I have already did a sketch, and if you're interested, I'll put the sketch on the screen right here. I thought it'd be fun to draw Sunday today since he is finally released, and he's playable soon. So I thought it'd be fun to draw his newer design. So right here, I do have the sketch already finished and printed. Now, I did get a question about how I do tiling, so we'll switch to that footage first, and hopefully I can kind of explain how I do the tiling method. So hopefully the audio is not going to be super terrible. I'm holding the mic with my hand, so I'm going to have to do this one-handed, but I wanted to show you guys how I actually set the size of my, I guess like my canvas and my printer papers to the appropriate size for, let's say if you want to do like tiling for any of your projects or anything like that. So first thing is to import your sketch from whatever drawing device, or if you're using like Clip Studio Paint or whatever, make sure that this is absolutely the correct size to your paper, and make sure that your resolution is going to be consistent among all the canvases that you make. So first thing I'm going to show you is the image resolution. So right now I need to change this to inches, I believe. Nope, centimeters. So my Shikishi board is 24 by 27. So that is what I had drawn Sunday on. And then my resolution is at 300. So what I'm going to do is make a new canvas and select the size of your paper. So I know mine is 8.5 by 11. Whoops, we're stuck in pixels. So 8.5 by 11 inches is about like a standard like size of paper, like a letter size paper. So I'm gonna hit OK. I'm also gonna turn off the background color for mine. So right here we have Sunday. So what I'm gonna do is go, let's see, we're gonna select all of this. So I'm gonna go ahead, select it, and we can go edit, copy, go over to our piece of paper. I'm going to go edit, paste, and you can see already that Sunday does not fit on my, what is kind of like the template for my printer paper. He's kind of like slightly too large. So what I'm going to do first is, ooh, is there a way for me to hold my mic? Maybe I can hold it with my legs. Okay. So what I'm going to do is flip him this way because I want to make sure that my borders here, so most likely this isn't going to be like super accurate. So there's like some of these areas that the printer cannot print on, which typically kind of looks something like this. It might be not as thick, but you can kind of imagine it's something similar. So I like to keep my sketch away from those borders. Now, obviously the one side is going to be cut off, but that is okay. I'm going to try my best to center this as much as I can. So I'm going to boost it up a little bit. And you can see that a part of him is cut off. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer. So we're going to copy and duplicate. And the reason why I'm not selecting and copying is because of this. So if you accidentally select your canvas and decide to transform and copy, you're going to end up with a cropped version of your drawing rather than the full version. So I recommend either duplicating as soon as you paste your drawings and moving them together, just because like you'll have like the exact duplicate of it. But what I like to do is, if this is my first page, my second page will have the drawing shifted the other way. So I'm going to make sure that the drawing is fully visible. So I'm going to go about that much. And it's good to do a little bit of math to figure out how you're wanting to tile your drawing onto your canvases. So for me, I found that if I flipped the Sunday drawing vertically, like how it was originally drawn in, it would be too tight among the, I guess like the bleeding borders for my printer, or like for my printer. So I had to turn it to the horizontal, which allows me to have quite a bit of overlap. So this is the first half and this is our second half. And you can see that there's going to be a significant amount of overlap, which I'm totally fine. So when printing, I'm going to print out this page first. It does show you a preview right here, but it might depend on your program. But Clip Studio Paint works a lot for me. I know some programs like Procreate, sometimes Paint Tool Side doesn't allow you to move an image like this without it being like totally cropped. So just be careful about that. Also, just to make sure, when you're moving your sketch from like one side of the paper to the other side of the paper, or in this case, like the canvas. So you can probably hear my printer going, but just to make sure, when you're sliding over your drawing or your sketch on your canvas, make sure to use the arrow keys. Don't eyeball it. Otherwise, you're going to have a nightmare of lining up things. It just makes it a lot easier if you just line up the paper itself. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the second one, and we're going to print off this one as well. Hopefully with your resolutions being similar, when you copy and paste your drawings, hopefully it won't be too drastic of a change, and it should match more appropriately with your actual size of your paper or whatever you're trying to transfer to. I've not really had any issues with sizing unless you don't print a full sheet at 100%, or if you work with a different DPI or resolution, then I usually find there's a discrepancy. But if you're never sure, let me print this one first. But if you're never sure, you can always make a new canvas with your appropriate size. So let's say if I go into here, we go centimeters, let's go 24 by 27. And I take my drawing from earlier and paste it here. You can see that it's pretty much the exact size. Sometimes I work with 350 DPI instead of like 300. So sometimes my drawings are like slightly bigger like this, and this will cause an issue if you tried copying this one onto this. So you can see that this one doesn't fit as nicely drawing. So just make sure that you match your DPI. That way when you transfer it to your printer paper, you can just tile it and you don't really have to resize anything. Just make sure to use arrow keys to line things up. This one's more simple because luckily, one side fits nicely onto the printer paper. I've done tiling on 4 pieces of paper, and that's a little bit more of a nightmare. As long as there's enough overlap, you should be like okay with lining things up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the printed pieces, and we can take them over to my other desk, and we can go ahead and start to transfer our lines. So see you there. So hopefully with that explanation, you kind of understand how I do the tiling for some of my larger pieces. So there is a lot of overlap for this, and you can kind of see where the border of my paper is not able to be printed. So my printer, which is like a laser jet, does not print full bleed. My inkjet or like my photo printer does, but I'd only whip that out when I'm doing like actual prints. But for LaserJet printer, I just end up making sure that things fit nice between the borders if I can, and then make sure there's enough overlap so that we can trim these down, tape them together to basically make the actual full image, which is kind of something like this. I like using a paper trimmer so I don't have to whip out my cutting mat. And I want to see where exactly I'm supposed to trim. So let's trim the little excess off of this first. Okay. And then we'll make sure to have enough overlap. This side matches, this side's a little off. My fingers hurt really badly. I was trying to teach myself how to crochet to make a little pot for Kaisen. Actually, let me go grab them really quick. Oh, almost dropped them. Oh my god. I forgot how loose he is in the little pot, but I wanted to have Masaki and Kaisen to be in their own individual pots so that they can sit kind of anywhere. Because right now, they have to be always like propped up or hung on something. So it's kind of nice to put them in a pot so that I can just move them around and place them anywhere, just in case if I need to move them out of the way. But as you can see, it's a little bit too big for him. But he kind of fits nicely because his hands do stick out and his head kind of just like plugs the top of this little pot. Yeah, but because I'm not used to doing crocheting or like the tension of when you're actually doing the crochet part, my finger is really sore, or like my hand feels like every time I stretch it out, it kind of hurts because my hand's stuck in this position all the time. So I'm not too sure if that's normal or if it's just like abnormal for myself. So yeah, I'll definitely make a green one for Misaki though. So hopefully in the future. Okay, let's continue taping, and then I'll cut off even more excess off the back in a second because I would like to lessen the amount of contact between two pieces of paper versus one when I'm doing the transfer. So just to make sure, and I already messed up already, I noticed. So I did end up noticing that I forgot once again to change the color of my sketch. So we're gonna have to use a different color ballpoint pen and just pray and hope that I get everything transferred correctly. I forgot. So to adhere my page to Shikishi board, at least I think it's called a Shikishi board. I do apologize if I keep pronouncing it wrong. Let's see. That's about right. Okay. So we'll just have the one side be taped down to the board itself, and then we'll have access around it. I'll show you a quick example of one of my alcohol marker drawings. So we have done a few. You can probably watch the one that I did of Soneto. She's not in here. Where is she? 2 OCs. So she's not in here. Let me see if I can find her and I'll bring her out. So hopefully today's session will be kind of similar to this. I don't know by experience and like, you know, working on a Shikishi board by like, I guess like firsthand, I don't know how the markers are going to technically react, but this is on Bristol paper or like Bristol board vellum. And I really like this one. So hopefully we can do something similar, but right now we have to transfer our sketch. So let's go ahead and tape down the back side a little bit as well, so that our paper doesn't start to lift as we're working on it. Okay, so now the problem with this one, technically, is that the border, I'm not too sure. I'm just gonna kind of crease it with my finger just so I can actually see where exactly the edge of our board is, because I see that some of this is going to actually hit the gold portion, because I did not take that into consideration when I was drawing this. I think the size that is mentioned on the back is the entire board and not the actual paper space. A little tight, so we could shuffle it. Be a little bit better. Yeah, I think that's actually pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this to my board. Oh wait, we can't tape it quite yet, I just realized. So before we actually do that, let me color the back of this. So hopefully I'll just skip this portion because it's tedious, or at least like I'll shorten it because I've already shown the full thing on a different video. But I'm going to quickly explain what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a Prismacolour Colerase. You can use any kind of like soft lead kind of ish pencil that kind of can erase, or whatever you want to use to transfer your drawing, as long as it can make an impression when pressed against. You can do something similar. So I can kind of see my line work, or like my sketch lines. So I'm just going to color in only those areas. I'm going to skip this entire area because there's not exactly any lines there. And we just need to cover enough so that we can get an impression. And unfortunately, I do have to do line art beforehand, which is going to make me feel a little bit worried. So I'm going to try my best to not press too hard when doing the transfer, as well as hopefully not needing to erase too much, because I'm not too sure how delicate you have to be with a Shikishi board paper. I'm not sure if it's like it can take a lot of either layering, or can it take a lot of just like rubbing back and forth, let's say with a pencil or erasing, or like those kinds of material. I will probably not finish this in one full night session, even though I'm starting a little bit earlier than usual. Because I might need to take a break so that I don't get too bogged down with how this actually looks. Because I think Sonato, I don't think it took, did it take 2 sessions? Maybe it did. But sometimes I need to take a break. Otherwise, sometimes if I have problems with a drawing, I tend to spiral a little bit, being like, oh, I don't like it. I might want to scrap it, all that kind of stuff. So just scribble on the back. I tried to keep the drawing kind of on the simple side because I was a little bit nervous. I actually had a different drawing planned, but I feel like it was a little bit too ambitious. So either if this goes well, maybe I'll do the other session. Maybe I'll do it in watercolor, or we'll see what other medium I can do it in. So now we can get our Shikishi board back here. Now just to make sure this is in the right orientation. I don't want the dent to be on the bottom. We can lay Sunday back on top and align our paper, hopefully correctly. Tape towards the back. I'm basically creating like a hinge for myself so that we can keep our paper nice and snug, and it shouldn't move too much. So for transferring the lines, I like using a little bit more of a blunt type of, like, I guess like writing material, drawing material. So for me, I like using a ballpoint pen. You can definitely use a pencil or whatever you want to use, or some people use like a, I forget what it's called. It's like one of those clay working tools where you just have to make like impressions into your paper. But for me, I like using a pen. So 1, I can see where I've already drawn, and 2, I feel like the tip of the ballpoint pen isn't too sharp, so I'm not going to be pressing too much like of an indentation into the paper. But also I think it applies a little bit more of an even pressure compared to a pencil, where I might have to keep sharpening every time. So I'm going to change the view so we can get a better angle, and then you can see whether or not this actually transferred to the paper, and hopefully this isn't going to be a complete mess. So hopefully this is going to work. I like to start with the eyes, so I'm going to actually not press too much pressure. I'm just going to do a quick little kind of a test. I can see marks, so I think that's good. And the problem with this, I am going to have to do this drawing at least twice. And I mean this drawing, I don't mean like including the sketching portion. And the reason being is that when I work with alcohol markers, I do like adding a line work first with a water-based marker, which I don't know how it's going to react to this paper. And I forgot to pre-select my colors, so I might have to do that afterwards, and hopefully this works out. Yeah, I'm a little wary of how hard I should press. because I've seen, I'll put some video links maybe in the description if I remember. I think they're called Rambutan Illustrations or something like that, and they were an artist that I love to watch drawing. I believe they're not as active on their YouTube anymore, but when they were, they're one of my favorite artists that I love to watch do traditional artwork, and I believe they have a video about a Shikishi board and like tips and tricks as well as like a demonstration. So from that video alone, I think Shikishi boards are a little bit more on the delicate side, which is why it's making me a little bit nervous to do a drawing on it without too much planning. I'm gonna have to press a little harder. So like I said, I'm gonna have to do line art afterwards, so I need to have some kind of impression of my sketch somewhere on there. And hopefully I can add more detail, line width, or line weight variation and all that jazz to the lines once we do the line art. Because at this point, we just need to get something transferred so that I have something that I can reference to before we add anything that's like more or less final. I'm hoping this paper isn't moving too much every time I ink. So if you're ever confused about how does this work, it's similar to like why people don't like squishing like graphite drawings on their sketchbook, because the pressure from drawing on one page to the other, it gets transferred anyways, usually with graphite. So similar thing, I guess you could say. Hopefully that makes sense. It's basically because the pressure from you drawing a new drawing already on something that has graphite, the new page or like the back of that page is going to take the impression of whatever you were drawing. This part's tedious, but oh geez. Doing the line art is definitely going to be more of a tedious process because I'm going to be very nervous doing the line art. I wish I made my sketch a little cleaner, then I'll be able to tell a little bit more easily on what is what. That's okay. See, this already isn't the clearest. Because a lot of this is transferring. I hope I'm not indenting it. But some areas where the paper is being overlapped by my tiling method is causing a little bit of an issue, but that's okay. Also, I didn't mention the gold parts on this piece, which I might, yeah, I still might pencil them in at some point. But I want to do the patterning and all that with a gold marker or watercolors, like gold watercolor, because I do have metallic paints somewhere. I just don't remember where they are, but once I find them, I would like to use them to create a border, just to add a little bit of that little special detailing to his piece. So let me know if you're summoning for Sunday, because I definitely want to. So I'm going to try my best to finish up and catch up in Star Rail so that I have enough funds. Okay, so the good thing about flipping back and forth, besides me being paranoid of not being able to transfer the lines properly, is to, what was I gonna say? I don't know what I was gonna say with that point. I was gonna say there was something gonna be helpful with doing that, but I don't think there is really. But it is nice not sealing all your sides, otherwise you might have a problem being able to check, and maybe you already like ripped off your paper instead of like waiting to check whether or not everything was like transferred properly, because lining it up would probably be a nightmare. Unless you made registration marks, which I definitely did not. And it gives me flashbacks to my printmaking days, where your registration marks did not line up, and that was a nightmare. So he only really has skin exposed on his face. I'm trying to think what kind of color we want to use for the line art. We could do like a grayish blue and do brown probably for his face. Ooh, I think that dented a little bit. Just ever so slightly. So this and just general inking is going to be very tedious because we're doing a lot of basically tracing of my own drawing twice. Which I think line art's going to be a little bit more fun. But this has a little bit of less like stakes. Because I can always add and remove at this point. But once I do the line art, it's going to be very hard to remove. And if I like how the alcohol markers behave on this paper or board, I might purchase some smaller versions. So like I said, this was actually sent to me by my friend Star. So if you're watching this, Star, thank you. But I don't really have access to anywhere that actually sells these in person. She does. Unfortunately, my store does not. But I found some on Amazon that are of a much smaller size. It's like a 3x3. But I think those could be fun as a gift. And another way I could return the favor to her and send a full colored version. Because I always feel wary sometimes, like sending some of my traditional art. Just because it might get broken or busted during transit. But this feels quite sturdy as long as I package it correctly. It would be fun to do these as like a gift for people. And I already have some people in mind that I would love to send a little portrait or something to them. Including this friend. So I don't know if Star watches my videos, but if you do, expect something if this works out. If not, don't hold me accountable for anything. I might even forget at this point. So I don't think green was a great color. It also would help if you lightened your sketch before printing it. All you have to do is like literally slap a white canvas on top of it and then lower the opacity. Because I know in previous sessions, I would actually just change the sketch color like in Procreate before transferring it. But I don't really need it to be a different color. I just don't need it to be black at this point. There's no point of me being able, or there's no point of making it harder for myself for this reason. So hopefully gonna need this pattern too. So I believe this is a lighter color that's gonna be surrounded by a darker color. Or black, again, in this case. Okay, what am I missing? This line. He's pretty much done. I do have a little bit left in terms of the halo portion and the, what is it called? The border. Because I want to put a little bit of an inkling so that if I need to redraw it, I can. Or I can freehand it, which is also a possibility. But it also might be a bad idea, knowing that I don't have a steady hand. Kind of weighing out my options at this point. Like I said, I don't know how I'm going to edit this video, because I like the other ones that were kind of more real-time and longer, but I feel like some of this is a little bit redundant, so I don't really need to put it in again. We'll see. Maybe I'll make it a little bit more digestible. So the thing is, the Pilot Color Eno versus the Colerase. Pilot Color Eno has an easier time erasing than the Colerase, so I'm a little bit nervous trying to lift the sketch up a little bit after I need to probably remove it after doing the line art, but we'll see what happens when we get there. I really want to make Natsume fan art again. I watched episode 1 of the new season and it makes me really miss the anime so much. So I'm glad it's finally back after 7 years. 7 long years. So I can see I missed an eyebrow. Make sure that this is going to be even. Also, sorry I'm not in frame. My viewfinder is like kind of behind me, so I can't really check as often as I would like to see if I'm in frame or not. I think we might be good. Maybe. I kind of want to sleep early though. We'll see. Yeah, let's do the patterning. I might just do like a line in between. We can do the forms like whenever, but just do a line instead. Because most likely, either if I'm using like a brush or I'm using markers, most likely it's thicker than my ballpoint pen, so I'll be able to cover the little red portion. That's being probably transferred to the page. But this way I can probably keep things a little bit neater as well. Ooh, I pressed pretty hard. Okay. Let's do the bottom section. And I accidentally scooched the paper a little bit, so it's not 100% where it's supposed to be. It's a little off. this little curly Q right here. Horizontal going this way. Uniform. I think that's it. So let's go ahead and do the line art, which I'm excited and not excited for. So now that the sketch is fully transferred for the most part, and I have enough detail to go off of, I think. Actually, I did miss a line now that I'm looking at it. But I think pretty much everything else kind of makes sense. So let's go ahead and remove this. I'm going to leave the sketch near me so that I can refer to it when I need to. But we can just carefully remove it from the back without ripping our yellow sheet. Okay. Sketch transferred. So the other option obviously is just to draw on top of the Shikishi board, but I don't trust myself because I would have to erase quite a bit probably. But let's grab our water-based markers and pick some colors for the line art. So apparently I never hit record. We're going to use this. So this is a Magicfly dual tip brush pen / fineliner. So it has a fineliner on this side, a brush tip on this side, and it's part of like a pack of 100. I'm choosing to do purple this time because one, it's light enough and Sunday's color palette isn't too dark. Oh, wait. This marker just spray ink everywhere? Oh no. I don't know how it did that. I didn't... For some reason, this marker is just really juicy. I just splattered Sunday. Oh. But I am going to zoom in and we're going to do the line art. And hopefully, at the end, I will just have to use a darker line art, similar to how I did Sonetto. So for her, I did do a light orange for the entirety of her line art. And then after that, we went in with a dark purple to kind of give contrast, to darken some stuff up, give line weight variation, and it kind of polished everything up. So I kind of like that look. So hopefully me doing a lighter purple color will kind of give me a similar vibe. I just feel like orange doesn't really fit for Sunday per se. He has a lot more of like cooler colors, at least in my opinion. So let's try purple and hopefully I'll get over this splattering on him. I'm nervous to do the line art. I'm slowly losing my voice probably too. Okay, so Sunday actually has pretty light colored eyes, so I don't know what to do for his lash line per se, so I might leave it a little bit sparse in some areas. Okay, the thing is, like, I put the highlight at the very bottom, but he has, like, the bottom part of his eyes, I think, is lighter than the rest of his eyes, so I don't even know if this highlight's going to really show up that well. And I also think I made the highlight too large, so what a great way to start. So for the paper, can't really tell the difference between the Bristol board at this point. So I don't know if this is gonna adhere well. My nightmare is going to be like if the alcohol somehow lifts up my line work, because so far on like I think the 4-5 papers that I've used this method where I use the water-based markers as the line art, I've had no smearing, smudging, or issues with it, but this could be the first. Okay. I never drew any eyelids for him. And I do have a habit of drawing them as like hooded lids because that's what I have. But a lot of these just have like, I guess, double eyelids or just like some kind of indication of an eyelid. In the future, I would love to try doing watercolors on one of these boards. But I think I would do line art first again, somehow. So I'm going to be a little bit careful with his hair. His hair is on the lighter side, being kind of like a bluish gray. Well, I guess like Robin's hair is kind of closer to a grayish purple. So for the line art also, I like to darken up the corners to make fake kind of line width variation. And it just helps to create nice contrast too. Sometimes when I do line art as well, I do like the broken lines or like a dash and a dot. I don't know why I started doing that more recently, especially. I think part of it also just helps to take the pressure off of doing line art sometimes, because I don't have to do one full kind of like stroke all the way down. I feel like because I woke up a little bit earlier than usual, I do feel a little sleepy. So I think this is supposed to be his ear. I'm not too sure. Do I want to include another earring? Because I feel like he would have another one, technically. So I'm assuming this is his ear. So hopefully this is kind of somewhat correct. I should really pull up a reference of him again, because after I did my sketch, I didn't really refer back to it after that. So a lot of this could be off, where I didn't mean it to be off. I'm really hoping that this doesn't smudge. It feels a little bit of a waste to like transfer to, like, do the sketch digitally, transfer to sketch, and then botch it at the line art after you finish the line art. But I guess it'll be a learning experience if it does. Because maybe I'll get actual proper Fineliners again to use. Because I do have some, I just don't like using them for everything. Also, even though I can't go to these concerts, I think Lovelyz has their 10th anniversary concert in November. And then Infinite has their 15th anniversary or something like that concert. 15th concert thing? 15th year concert. And they're doing like an Asia kind of tour-ish thing for their event dates, I guess. It's just nice to see them come back together and then do some sort of activities. So if you didn't know, before 17, in 2011, I got really into Infinite, and they were a group that debuted in 2010. But then in 14-ish, Lovelyz also debuted, and they were like my favorite girl group. Part of it was because they were the sister group to Infinite, but I did like all their songs. I think the members were very cute and funny. So I'm just glad to see a lot of older groups kind of like making a return or a comeback, because I miss them. Okay, let's put Sunday somewhere else. So right now I'm listening to Lovelyz songs. I've been listening to Lovelyz songs for like the past few days, or almost, I think probably closer to a week, because They were finally on Killing Voice, and I'm so happy. I just put a little bit of an indication. I think because like this will be quite dark anyways, and then this is part, like this part, the pattern is light. I don't really think it needs any line art per se. Let's see. This wing sweeping in. I do apologize. Usually when I do like line work of any sort, I think I definitely just like clam up a lot. I am a bit of a yapper, I do think, especially like during voiceovers. But overall, I'm usually just quiet and I don't speak a lot. Unless like you find a topic that I like, then I will probably yap. See kind of like dent that's made for this line. It's okay. So my line art, I think, besides it being, you know, on the cleaner side, I don't think it's anything too special though. I do like being able to ink directly on the paper with my sketch underneath so I can see all my sketch lines and kind of make decisions. Well, here there are some like areas that I feel like were like, I guess could be a little bit different if I was referring to my actual sketch versus referring to what I could get imprinted onto this paper. Okay, let's get his, this is like his halo, right? Okay, the last kind of portion here. So I don't really flesh this portion out. This is gonna look a little funky here. It's okay. I don't think I've ever really done justice to Sunday. Every time I've drawn him, I think 3 times, technically. I don't really like any of my iterations of him, other than the tiny little Sunday that I drew, just because he looks a little bit derpy. We're missing a portion of his wing. And then this portion here. Didn't really do the rest of his hair. Nor did I do it here, so let's see. So you can see that I missed some lines. So I need it to come like this. Oh, I guess this would have been, oh, let's see. I wanted this to sweep in front. I guess I didn't really do that. That's okay. Okay, I think we're done for the line art. I don't think there's any other areas I really need to like add too much line work variation or line width variation. Because I think we're good. And I might do... I feel like my voice keeps changing. I can't tell if I caught a cold or not. Okay, now with the line art pretty much finished, I actually don't see too much that we need to erase anyway, so maybe I'll leave everything. And I do have my swatches here because we are using the Ohuhu 320 color marker set. We need to pick out some skin tone and shadow colors for his face first. And I need to be careful a little bit because I know there's a lot of colors here that are running out. So I might use some of the lighter colors to help blend it out to the paper color a little bit. So let's get Y010. Everything's like in the way. So Y180. Okay, and then I guess his pupil is kind of like a dark, vibrant bluish color, so brilliant blue, PB2, maybe? We'll give this a go. So let's start off with his skin tone. I'm a little nervous, so I might start up fairly light. Because right now it goes on really dark and it fades out quite quickly. So I'm going to test the blending capabilities because I feel like that's a little too yellow. Yeah, I feel like this is too yellow. So let me find a better base tone for him. We could do R080, Pale Pink Cherry, because I don't think I use that one super often. So far, the lines are not bleeding, so at least that is a plus, if anything. But as of right now, I can't tell how dark this is. I don't want to go dark too quickly, knowing that his hair is also just like a gray color. So maybe we will put down a base color that I'm used to, maybe. The way it's drying, it doesn't look too bad though. E0. Let's see, where is he? It's this color that I usually use. I can feel the significant weight difference. We're gonna struggle today. Everything looks so dark, which is gonna throw me off quite a bit. So when I use the Bristol board, it's not usually like significantly darker. It's like a little bit darker. So a lot of this is kind of throwing me off a little bit. R18, do I have? I feel like this one's gonna run out too. So in terms of shadow color, 21. So I'm kind of placing in, I never checked if this bleeds. Looks like we're safe so far. So what I'm noticing, the markers actually go down pretty smooth once it dries. So it looks a little splotchy initially, but I'm glad it doesn't stay that way. Okay. I didn't really test the blending capability, so I hope it's not too bad. So you can kind of see how this lighter color really reacts to the paper. And I think it's going to take a while until it dries. I hope it's not actually that color because that's a little alarming. It looks a little too gray. So far I can see that's lightening up a little bit, but not by like a significant margin, so it makes me a little worried. So far I don't like how it's spreading as much. So right now I'm going to focus on trying to fill up all this space as much as I can. Color to bridge them a little bit. Sardonyx, powder pink, R21 is what I was using. So R20. Because it's just a little bit too sandy, maybe. Because it kind of just looks like he lost a lot of color, because I tend to use more like peachy or like something with a little bit more warmth. Yeah, I can see where it's kind of like bleeding a little bit. Not ideal. I think layering is easier rather than blending, so I might move on with that moving forward, which isn't going to be too bad considering the fact that because it's fairly stylistic, it won't be too bad doing the layering because it won't look too weird for the shadows and stuff to be super harsh. Not super harsh, but like harsher, I guess. Or what I'm seeing right here, maybe it just has to be blending what's still wet. I usually don't have this issue. So I'm trying to deal with it as we go. I am panicking a little bit. Let's see. Because I don't want to go too dark too quickly. So RV270. I think this is more accurate. I didn't realize my camera was kind of making it super saturated. I don't think it looks bad. It just looks a little off still. And everything appearing super dark when I initially put down like the first few passes does make me feel a little bit alarmed. Try to use Primrose to blend out a little bit. Maybe. We'll see if this even works. See if this is darker. I don't think it looks too bad. I just don't like how it bled like that. This might be a mistake, me trying to fix it, but we'll see how this goes. It's Primrose. Okay, let's add a little bit more blue to the shadow down here. It's R11. I don't think it turned out too bad here now. Just to be a little bit careful. His face looks interesting at this point. I won't add too much like blush or anything onto him. I might add a little bit to the nose area though. Because on camera it appears really dark. I don't... How do I want to do this? So eye color. Let's do the eyes. Because this will definitely tell me whether or not like I really dislike how this is going to look, or maybe it's like okay. This is a little bit of a greenish yellow, which I did not mean to pick such a greenish yellow. So I'm going to hopefully add some warmer yellows back into it. We'll use our darkest one, which is also the warmest. And I'm going to use this into his lash line too. And we'll probably darken with the blue, and then in the end, maybe if I need to do more line work, I'll do that. Like darken everything. But right now, yeah, everything is kind of like bleeding and feathering a little bit since the ink feels like it's still a little wet. Use this to blend it out a little bit. So I'm going to wait for that to dry a smidge because I don't want the, what is it called? The darker blue to smudge directly with the yellow, but we could add a little bit of purple at the very top. So we'll wait for stuff to dry a little bit. Thinking, do I actually want to add a little bit more to his like lips? Or like even his nose. So I think with my hands present, you can kind of see what the actual color is versus like when my camera kind of darkens everything for some reason when I take off anything that's like super bright from the screen. Hair color. So do I even want to do this right now? V3222. Maybe I do. So we can kind of plan out his highlights. I'm going to quickly check if this is even an appropriate hair color for him. It's not the worst. I kind of hope this lightens a bit. Maybe I will add his pupils first. Looks a little intense. Fixing his lash line. And this is what I mentioned. The highlight at the very bottom, I don't know what's doing me any favors. He looks a little bit more dead inside. With the highlights being at the bottom because there's not really any contrast for the rest of his eyes. It's not too bad. We're gonna have to darken up his eyeline anyways But let's go back to plan a little bit of how I wanted to do the hair. So this is a gray. I don't know if this is light enough. I might have to go even lighter. But like I said, I can't really tell because the marker and just the alcohol makes the paper really dark at first until it dries. So it's gonna be hard to tell whether or not I'm gonna even like what this is gonna look like. Flicking motion to hopefully blend it into the bangs a little bit. So I want the light to come this way, so we'll make this darker. Okay, so far, not as dark as I thought it was, so that's good. Just gonna kind of block in some of these areas I know they're supposed to be dark. So on this side of the hairline, or his hair part, will be dark, and then this side will be light. I'll probably come back actually. I think the sleep's overtaking me. And then maybe I'll use the chisel tip side. Definitely a lot faster. Let me do this side, which technically wouldn't get hit by a lot of light. It's being covered by, one, the wings a bit, as well as the scarf. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna come back the next night, see how I feel about this, and then we can kind of continue, because I feel like I'm getting a little bit too drowsy right now. So I'll come back tomorrow night to do this, and I'll see if I can find either a gold paint pen or like my gold watercolor set, so that I can do the edges of this as well, because I kind of want it to match the little trim of the Shikishi board. So yeah, well, we'll come back the next day. Okay, hopefully everything is working again. This is day 2 or night 2, so we're gonna continue working on Sunday. We left off on his hair, and I already went ahead and pre-selected more colors because I did not want to spend the remainder of the time to find everything I need for his hair. So I have like an assortment of kind of like blue, purples, and kind of pinks, as well as I believe I had a few more grays here. Maybe I don't. So we might have to pull a few more if I need to, but right now we're going to stick with this kind of selection and continue with his hair because I think it'd be nice to add a few other colors into his hair so that it just doesn't read entirely kind of like the blue-gray throughout the entirety of his hair. I think I'm still struggling a little bit understanding how to use the markers on this paper in a way that works well. So the plan is to kind of blend out. I'm trying to figure out which. I'm assuming I use this color. Not too sure. But I want to make kind of like a band of a darker color right under the highlight. So that way the hair, one, gets a little bit more shape, but also gets a little bit more of a shine with the contrast. So hopefully I can get it to read correctly. I just need to find colors that can kind of bridge some of my lighter tones and my darker tones together. Because I don't want to go dark too quickly if I can't blend it out. Because the thing about this, I think it dries at a much slower pace, but maybe when it's still kind of wet with a lighter color, I can kind of add in the darker color and make a more seamless transition compared to how I had it earlier. It's kind of the hope here. That, or I can always just stick with blending kind of lighter colors until we can get, like, build up, basically, is what I mean. Build up the colors until we get the desired value. But I think that's the way to go. So I'm going to try my best to take advantage of the dry time. So his hair might be a entire mess because I did not really plan out the colors entirely of what I wanted everything to kind of look. And there's literally no blade through, so it's kind of interesting. I know my dad actually has some rice paper, so I kind of want to see if I can make like a makeshift version of using this paper. If I do end up enjoying this more than I realized, then I think I would be interested in seeing if I can make some kind of like a sketchbook or my own boards or something with this kind of method. We'll see, because I'm not even too sure if those ones even perform in the same way. But I think this kind of method works the best in terms of trying to get a very clean transition between my darks and my lights if I want them to be heavily blended versus what I was doing before and letting things kind of dry. Because I can kind of see the ink where it's kind of like just piling and just sitting on top of the surface. So I'm trying to make this side much darker. So we're going to continue. I'm hoping that this paper also just doesn't really suck too much of the ink out. Otherwise, I wouldn't really want to use this paper too often then. And I still like using my Bristol board. I need to push this color. So I don't want this side to be as dark. We're going to play around with the colors on this side a little bit more, but because of the lighting, I want this side to still have a lot of the white of the paper showing, and I don't want to drag too much of the darker colors onto this side if I don't need to. Okay, let's darken up our, I guess like this side. I'm gonna layer up this kind of grayish blue, and then we'll add purple on top of some of the areas just to deepen the color a bit, also give it a little bit more of a variation in hue. So like once everything's dry, we can kind of get more of a cleaner edge to everything. I kind of want a more grayish blue that's leaning more towards purple rather than green. So B260. Because we're leaning really green right now. So don't know if I really like that as much. So I feel like on the Shikishi board, because of the rice paper, it does have more of that stereotypical method of how people would blend markers, like quickly switching to make sure that you're taking advantage of the dry time. Versus some other paper, I feel like if you buff it out enough with your markers, you can kind of lift and blend easier. So it's definitely a difference between the papers. I think because like when I did a little bit of research to see whether or not you can use alcohol markers on a Shikishi board, I did think it would be a little bit easier to manage, but apparently not, just because I definitely think there is a difference between the papers that I've used before. So definitely do a test if you can. I know Shikishi boards aren't probably accessible, nor are they like an item I feel like you could really play around with unless you have like a lot of multiple boards. But because these come in like a set of 2, it's a little hard to not try to commit to just to one board right away. And I feel like a part of me wishes I didn't make this as dark, like the shadow in his sclera. It's a little bit late to try to fix that portion, I guess. So we kind of have this chunk left. I'm not too sure. Whoa. Okay. This board's a little bit on the larger side, kind of. I'm usually used to just one side being longer, but this is almost like a square, so I feel like it kind of hangs off my desk a little bit. So I can't constantly kind of like hit it and knock it and spin it because it's still a little bit beveled, probably from transit. Trying to fix up the shadows a little bit. So many shadows I'm putting on like the incorrect side. I'm realizing, because if my lighting's coming from the upper left, then they should be on the right side technically. So probably in the future, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do on that second like Shikishi board quite yet, but I feel like I kind of want to, wait a second, check if I can plan the drawing a little bit out more before committing to some of these colors. And I would love to include more colors into his hair. But like I said, because I can't tell how some of the markers are reacting, I'm a little bit timid right now with how I'm adding some of these colors. So I kind of like this yellow color. Technically, with like the flicking motion of the marker, you don't have to do too much blending if you keep everything soft, but something's working on like wet on wet kind of works the best still. It looks kind of pretty like that. Add more of the pink to bridge these. I think this looks nice. I am not liking this all that much. That's okay. You can't like them all, I guess. Because I might have to go back and add more contrast later. Because like I said, when the marker kind of makes contact with the paper, it gets like significantly darker. So he actually has a lot of white as well. So let's plan that out by using kind of our grays and blues. And he has yellow in here. So maybe I will do a quick test or take a quick look at my swatches here. Because it's kind of like a softer yellow, technically. So I could use Y3 as my darkest, or one of my darker colors. Calamansi, Y040. I see chiffon. Chiffon's a bit... Let's see. Okay, here it is. And we can do his earrings too. So maybe, well, I'll do it in this color first. So yeah, Y040, which is what I'm going to use for the inside of this. The inside of the scarf, I guess, is a yellow, which I actually like this yellow for Sunday. Not the one that I'm currently using, but in his official art. Oops, wait. This is not supposed to be yellow. Now it looks a little weird. This is technically his shoulder, or like the start of his shoulder. So I wanted to use Y3. Go a little darker. I might add a little bit of purple if I can. I just have to use it a little sparingly because we might get into too much of a brown territory. Slightly darker. So I need more of a, like a reddish purple. RV200 might work. It's a little too red now. V160. Do I have? Nope. So C150. I see 50, 250, 160. Let's try this color. Feels a little light. So I'm not too sure if this one will work super well. That's okay. We'll just darken up some of these areas and then we can move on to his shirt or the outside portion of his scarf. So I don't know if it's because I'm oversaturating the paper a little bit too much. There is a little bit of like feathering when I do go a little overboard. Something to keep in mind. So I would probably recommend like waiting between some passes if you want to do more layering. Okay, I'm also going to add the darker areas for some of these portions, which will definitely benefit with a darker line art later. This color kind of matches the little border that's on the Shikishi board. So technically these would get hit by light to some degree. Okay, let's do the wing and then the scarf so that we can actually do a lot of our gray areas. A little bit of pink, a little bit of our gray, smidge of a pinkish purple. Can add a darker color up here. Let that all kind of blend out and bleed. And then we'll come back to kind of darken those areas a little bit. Still looking at his hair. I feel like this part looks so flat, but I'm scared to make it too dark. So let's kind of wing it. Let's continue with the wing. So I'm using, I think, this gray color, or it's like a purple. Rainflower purple is kind of like my base color for a good chunk of the gray areas. So hopefully I don't really run out. Gradually add in our pink as well. And our blue. Okay, so like kind of one wing down. Let's move on to this side. I wish this thing wasn't like bubbled. I keep swinging and spinning it. It's kind of the same thing. Add our gray base, and then we'll gradually shift the hue. Trying to figure, is there a way for me to color this in to make it look less botched? Okay. This entire kind of backside, I want it to be in shadow. I hope I can do Sunday justice. I think I mentioned earlier that I feel like I haven't drawn him successfully. Let's see. So we have wings. Let's do the scarf. I wish I planned out some of the clothing folds here. It's gonna look a little awkward. Might even switch to chisel tip. Chisel tip. Just to get a bit more coverage faster. Okay, back to adding all the other colors I want to add. So pink, kind of a purpley color. A little bit of a blue. Whoops, wrong one. I think he does have a like an X pattern, but for now, I need to find a way to differentiate these two areas a little bit more. Okay, then this side. So we want, maybe I'll stick this into shadow. So this reads a little flat. So I think I can make this black actually. I don't think it's white underneath, so I think I might be okay. Okay, then down here is also just still white for the most part, so let's just continue making. I never lined it, I just realized. I'm gonna kind of dump this all into shadow. That back in our blue color here. So on this side, other than, I guess, needing a color for his little X on his hoodie part. Or his scarf, I guess, not a hoodie. It's like a grayish blue, 260. Because it's this color. I kind of want to go more gray, maybe. Because it might even be this color. So we'll just do this. Or, let's see, let's map it out first. Okay, let's add the darker color. Not too bad. And then we'll do like a purpley black color, or kind of like a reddish gray, I guess. So RG080. So we're gonna have to make a mixture to do kind of his collar area. And I think it's just mostly almost like a black, similar to his gloves. So it has a tinge of like purple or red into it. So let's see what we can do to kind of blend into it. I can do his rings first, actually. Because I think they're silver. Okay. Change plans. kind of similar look on this one. Okay, so kind of navy-ish color for here. And then we can kind of do like a purpley color up here. So I'm going to pick some more intense looking colors. We have V080. Can do navy. So clematis R13. So this covers a lot of the line art. Didn't really pick a lighter color either, so we might have to add something to that. V160 could add. I want to add a smidge of that yellow. Okay, we're going to add that same color kind of down here as well. So, let's see, I'm trying to decipher my own lines here. So this is supposed to be white, this is all dark, I guess. And choose our darkest color. Ooh, I didn't really want to color directly on top of that border. Maybe I can take a, what is it called? Colorless blender and see if I can clean that up. Cleans it right up, so that's kind of nice. Use the colorless blender to kind of clean up the little edges, and then I'll just use a scrap piece of paper. Get some of that ink out. Okay, back to our gray. So I'm going to put this all into shadow. wait until that dries a bit. His gloves are a similar color, but we can go a little bit more on the darker side of like a grayish brown. And I might use R270. Maybe we'll use this one as the base. A little bit of yellow. Almost forgot about this pattern. So I feel like it's more of an actual like physical object on his glove, but the way I've drawn it, it's kind of more like just a pattern on top. So while I let this dry, because I don't want to color in the rest of the glove until this yellow is dry because I know it's going to bleed, let's go and add our yellow to the halo portion of his outfit. So I'm mixing a lot of different yellows for this probably, as well as kind of like more of an olive tone. So it resembles a little bit more of like actual gold. So let's go grab an olive tone for that part. Something slightly more like greenish. Maybe even like beige green. G240. Yeah. Just so things don't read too like orangey. Okay. But I definitely think I will try doing some watercolor on the next board. I think I'm just going to decide that right now. Because even though I think it would be fun to do more alcohol markers, I would like to try a different medium on it and just to see how it reacts. A little bit of that green. So I think I did decide though also. I found a gold paint marker, so we can use that for the gold edges, I guess, is what I wanted to do. So let's continue with his glove. I might switch to the chisel brush again. Because this is going to be kind of like our highlight color. So I kind of need this entire area to be filled in. And then we'll do fairly dark layers on top. Okay, so what I wanted to do was the purple and the brown, I think. I think the brown would work the best. It's gonna get a little dark. Usually I would blend this out like kind of individually for some of these parts. So we can blend it to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. But I think I should have looked for another bridging color in between this, because I think these ones might be a little bit, excuse me, a little bit too far in value. So they might look a little bit weird when blended out. Try not to go and overlap that border. Okay, so I might layer the purple on top to see if we can make this a little bit darker, or I I could layer the blue as well. So this will definitely make the gloves look really dark at this point. Blend it out a little bit. As well as our highlight color technically. Okay. Actually, I don't think I need this highlight. So I didn't really think of a background color. Pink might work. Black might work. Black would actually look really nice, but I will also lose my lines. Or, actually I won't if I make my lines thick enough. Okay, let's do black, actually. I think might be the choice that I want to make. Or like a dark blue, maybe. Or dark gray. BG1109. We could do that. It's fairly dark. BG1109. I just think it'll look nice with the gold. Whoops. Oh, I didn't color in this part. Let's do this part first, actually. So we need a little bit of a purple and some more vibrant blues. Let's do PB7. I'm gonna have to blend it out anyways. Oops, I forgot how dark this was. The cap looks so much lighter. Mistaken it for a different blue. This part is kind of more of a warm gray. So, E380 Ash Rose. Actually, I think this portion is also a gray. Let's also follow some of the dark areas for this so that it doesn't look too out of place either. I can tell I've never used this marker. The nib is very firm. Okay, last part is this technically, which is also a gold. Okay, so I think for the most part Sunday's done. It's not my most favorite at the moment in terms of like how I've drawn everything, but I think it's an okay attempt on the Shikishi board. I'm just going to add in a dark color, and my plan is to kind of avoid, let's see, yeah, avoid these areas kind of with the, like almost like a sticker outline, so that I can see exactly where I'm going to be adding in the golds, because I want the gold to be somewhat of a thicker application. So as long as I give myself enough indication by leaving the lines kind of like not covered. Some of these I think were supposed to be stems. Let me see. Actually, I think I sent myself the sketch. Did I? I did not, so okay, here he is. Let's see. Try my best to follow this. So I think this is supposed to be his scarf that I never ended up putting. That is okay. We're just gonna cover it because I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just gonna bring this all the way up. And I'll clean the borders after as well, because I'm going to get a lot of ink kind of spilled on the side. And I just noticed that if you just use any lighter color, most likely it'll rub off the darker color anyways. But I will use the colorless blender most likely. Okay, so far, dodging the lines hasn't been so bad. I'll probably add in the thorns, kind of willy-nilly. do the other side. Even though I didn't finish the upper right of this piece, we're just gonna quickly fill in some of these areas so that I don't accidentally mess it up somehow. Yeah, let's just fill these in really quickly, and then I can just fill everything else in. We can finally do the gold, which I think will be fun to do, as long as this marker works in my favor. And then the final step will be just like small cleanup, and then I'll show you guys the finished piece. So I don't really care about the thickness that I'm going to do these lines in, but as long as the gold can cover up some of these darker areas as well, then it should work in my favor. I just hope it's opaque enough. Okay. So what I'm going to do with the paint marker, I think I'm going to do the horizontal and the vertical lines first so I can see the thickness, and then kind of adjust the curves to that. But I only can adjust so much because the amount that I'm going to leave open with the darker marker, like my current marker that I'm using, it's only going to leave me with a little bit of wiggle room. Unless I can cover up some of the paint marker with this marker, then that probably would work the best. If I ever needed to fix this up a little bit. I think the dark hopefully will help with a little bit more contrast, but also I just want the border of the Shikishi board to stand out, because this is kind of like one of the features of the board, I guess, that I like. is that it's kind of like a nice paper mounted already on a board or on the surface. That makes it a little bit more sturdy. It looks really nice and aesthetic because of the gold lining around it. Oops. I might have to go over some of these areas with 2 passes just to get a nice even color. Part of me wishes I used black instead, but kind of just dark, cool, really dark gray. I still think it works out. The other option I was going to do is like a light pink or a light purple to make it more like Dream-esque, or a royal blue, similar to like the pupil of his eye. But like I said, I kind of wanted that bigger contrast, but I didn't really want to use black right off the bat. Now I'm iffy. Just have to be careful because one wrong move, I might accidentally put like a dark streak right on his head or right on his face. So when I'm kind of like turning my Shikishi board, I have to make sure my marker is kind of further away because I feel like I am prone to doing something like that. Considering the fact, I think on Sonetto, I ended up accidentally placing, I think, my marker on the page somehow. And then the other one was earlier when I was working on this. I accidentally, I guess like when I was opening the cap of my water-based marker, it splattered the purple on Sunday. So there's like little dots of purple everywhere near like this portion of his face. A good thing with like a lot of these darker colors, the markers tend to be really juicy. So filling up a large area like this seems like no problem, and I don't see the marker really, what is it called? Like losing ink, I guess? I really need to catch up on the story. I think I'm 1 patch off in terms of Honkai Star Rail, and then Genshin I think I'm 2 patches off, so I'm gonna find some time to finally catch up, because that's like another reason why I haven't really been drawing as many characters, is because I've been falling a little bit behind. So by the time I do end up loving the character, I feel like they're kind of not as relevant. But that won't stop me from drawing them, hopefully. So while things are kind of drying, let's take our, whoops. Where does it go? A colorless blender and go around the edges. So I think you can kind of see like the little bit of bleeding here. So I'm just going to take colorless blender and just sweep it up. A scrap piece of paper to kind of dab away that excess. But it does a pretty good job of cleaning up the edges. So I do have to clean the colorless blender every so often. I'm just using like a scrap sticky note and making sure that the ink is kind of coming off so that I'm not rubbing it back onto the border here. This side's a little cleaner. Not as much. And I think that makes it all clean. And you can see that all the little scribbles on here. Make sure that all of the ink is off, even though the tip's a little bit still dyed. I think it should be good to go. It's pretty clean. So let's add our gold, and then we can do our line art on top. So yeah, let's do gold, and then we'll finish off Sunday by doing some more contrasty line art, I guess. Okay, so with the background done, I actually messed up. And I missed one part, just realizing now. I'm gonna try my best to be as clean as possible. But for the kind of like gold, I am going to be using the Sim Tap marker from Artex. So this is kind of one of those markers that you just kind of press the back part and it'll kind of dispense more ink. So let's go ahead and test it out first, because paint markers just in general tend to bleed or spill or even explode at times. So you just want to test it out first. And I think for the most part, looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and I can kind of see this pattern easier. And like I mentioned, I think I want to do the vertical and horizontal first. I might have to do 2 passes. We'll see. But so far, I think it actually doesn't look too bad. Yeah, some areas I might just go back in, double up on the layer so that it's fully covered. This gold is a little bit more yellowy rather than like this orangey gold, but it still looks kind of pretty. Okay. So although white is technically covered, I'm going to do a second pass so I can cover up some of the darker areas. And I kind of forget where I added the foreigns, so let's kind of add them in wherever. Okay, let's do this side next, which I can kind of barely see. Ah! Wait. Okay, luckily paint marker is drying very quickly. I accidentally put my hand into it, but it did not apply onto my hand. It was just a little tacky. Okay, so same thing, just add foreigns. I'm surprised I didn't cover the rest of this, actually. But let's go back to this side and fill in kind of a second pass. Just to make it a little bit more opaque, because I can see the difference between where I left kind of like that white gap and the dark bluish gray color. So to kind of just to even it out a little bit. for this side. Hopefully there's enough time in between to actually let this portion dry. Usually acrylic markers and just like acrylic paint in general dries a little bit quicker. But the reason why I want to do the second pass when it's dry is that I don't want to accidentally like scrape up some of that paint or push around the pigment. Otherwise it's just not going to get really an opaque application. I'll be just like scooching around and digging up whatever's underneath and making that more visible. Like what I'm doing right here. I can kind of tell it wasn't dry, so I'm gonna have to come back. Okay, let's wait for this to dry. I'm gonna fill this in the meantime. So I think for the most part, all this is kind of colored in the way I wanted it to be. And I'll come back when this is like completely dried so that we can kind of handle it a little bit better, and then we can do our line art next. I don't know if this will be a bad idea. I want to add a little bit of gold right on his eye line, or like his upper eyelid almost, so that I guess when you shine this on the light, it'll catch the light as well, and I think it looks kind of pretty. But let's go ahead and grab our liners. I'm thinking like dark blue might work the best. I'm not too sure if dark purple would work. Let's see. I mean, dark purple might work. I do have dark blue. I don't really like the black in this set. I think I've damaged the nib of it. So we have these two. So let's use dark blue. And I'll zoom in so you guys can see a little bit better. So basically it's the same fine liner that I was using like earlier when I first did the initial line art, but we're going to use this darker color to hopefully pull out a little bit more contrast. If not, I will also just go ahead and find like a black fine liner and we can just like make it even more intense if I need to, if this isn't dark enough. But to kind of test out, I am going to start with the eyes. So this isn't going to be as a drastic change, I don't think, compared to the one of Sonetto. Sonetto was like, her liner was so light. And I feel like she had more areas that had lighter color, maybe. So the contrast between picking a much darker liner fit a little bit better and made everything a little bit more intense. in a very obvious way, but I'm not too sure how obvious me doing the line art on this one's going to look like compared to that one. Now already right off the bat, I think I did damage this nib as well. It just feels like it feels round rather than like a little squishy. So I might have burnished it by accident in a previous drawing of some sort. But we're just gonna push through because consistency. I think there is a big enough difference though, so we're going to continue on this eye and then we'll continue the rest of the hair as well. Blue isn't going to exactly look the most natural, but it gives a nice deep kind of contrast that I like. The only time the swiveling actually comes in the hand, like come in handy, is when I'm doing the line art like this. Eyebrow. We'll do nostrils. Tip of his mouth. Also at this stage, definitely still be wary of like things like smudging, because that would probably be the worst if you did all this just to smudge it at the very end. Yeah, but this piece definitely needed a little bit of contrast here and there. But I already knew that because I deliberately picked a lighter liner this time versus the one of Soneto. I wanted to pick one that matched her a little bit closely to kind of get a softer look. But I didn't really like it in the end until I added a contrasting line art. Because it's not like I'm doing realism, so I don't really mind if there's like really bold line art. So not everywhere needs it, but definitely areas that needed more contrast was the face in general, like some of the facial features, like the eyes, the nose, the mouth. But then these darker areas where I've done kind of like line width variation for the hair helps frame the face better too. Because I'm not here to trace over every single line that I did with the purple initially, just enough so that things can stand out on their own. But you can see that I'm leaving like a lot of these tips untouched because I like the softer look around his face of like where the hair comes into like the skin, I guess. And the thing about doing darker line art like this, I might see some areas that I kind of want to push the shadows more. And technically, because this is still the water-based marker, I could go back in and do that, and I won't like really worry about smudging either. But I'm kind of getting that same feeling where I like this piece a lot more with the darker outline. I always become more quiet when I'm doing line art. Even if I do feel like it's a little bit less high stakes at the moment, unless I royally screw it up somehow. But for the most part, like I'm just kind of picking and choosing what lines to really accentuate. But I'm not really adding any new lines per se. Everything is based off of what I've already put down, and that one's already based off of my sketch. So nothing should come as to like a surprise per se. And obviously the hand really needed the line art because you can't see his fingers otherwise, or like really differentiate the shapes as easily. I feel like the camera kind of picks up the line art a lot better than sometimes what I can see in front of me. I think the contrast looks nice. So I don't know if my friend will even watch this video, but my plan is to, well, I already ended up doing a small purchase because somebody in my family wanted to buy something on Amazon anyways. So I added on a set of 5, I think 3x3 Shikishi boards, and I would like to give her, I think 2 drawings on it. So one of her OCs, and then the other one I wanted to draw somebody from Hype Mike, because, or Hypnotic Mike, Hypnosis Mike? Hypnosis Mike, I think, is my plan. But I'll see what I like better. If watercolors work better on the Shikishi board, then maybe I'll do that. If not, I'll stick with the alcohol markers and just try my best not to botch it any kind of way. Even though I think like Sunday came out actually pretty good, and I actually am liking it a lot more because of the line art, obviously. I still kind of want to do a Natsume fan art again with Mini Sensei. So cute. I want to get back into making some of my derp chibi sets again for stickers, because it'd be fun to add Sunday into that. I've seen a lot of people draw Sunday as like the ugly baby. Those ones always make me crack up, but I don't know if we can draw the ugly baby one. I don't know actually if it's also like a specific artist, so I don't really want to copy their design either. But that one's always very funny when it does come up on my timeline, or like what I assume is other people drawing it as well, if it isn't like from a specific artist. Yeah, I think blue is the right call. Purple would have looked not too bad, but there's just something about the blue that I really like, and I feel like it fit his eye color because he does have kind of like that dark blue center for his pupil. but kind of like accentuating some of these lines by making them darker in this sense. It's similar sometimes to when I work digitally and I don't do like a super clean style. I kind of leave everything a little bit chunkier, but I don't end up kind of like cleaning up the lines too much, and I sometimes just do like a really dark line art instead. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit. And some of the areas that like got pushed from the alcohol marker being too saturated on the paper, I can kind of clean up some of the edges because the blue matches the color nicely. So I actually can't wait until those boards arrive. I think I will wait and hold off from doing a watercolor piece on the Shikishi board until the little versions come, and then I will go ahead and try it out because I don't know exactly how I want to do another illustration on the bigger one until I can commit to like a drawing that I know I will like to work on and keep. I don't like how I attach these actually. I'm thinking, do I want to add really any darker areas to his halo? Because, like, I don't know if it's necessary to really make these stand out, but it would make it look a little bit cleaner by having the tighter lines. I say as I'm, like, doing it without hesitation now. Add it in some places. It's not necessary for everything anyways. So mostly focusing these on these like little edges, just to give some of these a little bit more dimension, because after I added the shadows in for some of the areas, I kind of lost the shape and the thickness. I think we're pretty good. I don't think there's really anything else I really need to add. I might shrink this actually. So let's bring out that BG color. Whoops. had to grab the colorless blender again. For some reason, like, I think I got rid of some of the gap here and then brought it back. So it looks a little off. Okay. But I think we're good, other than I might cover up these holes as well. The darker color. I like how these don't even look the same. Maybe I'll try to expand it a little bit. Try to get a similar shape. But let's let these dry, and then I'll finish off the liner a little bit, and then we can zoom out and see how Sunday looks all together with everything kind of like finished for the most part. Okay, so here's a close-up of Sunday. So here's kind of the finished version of Sunday, kind of all zoomed out. He's still a little bit beveled, I think, from either the packaging or like transit. I don't really want to bend it too much, but I think he turned out pretty okay. I'm not too sure how well you guys can see this without too much glare from my artificial lighting. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me try out a Shikishi board for the first time. I was nervous to use one on such a large scale because I knew my friend was going to be sending me one because she told me about it, but I wasn't sure about the size. So this was a little bit intimidating for me. But I think Sunday turned out pretty well. Yeah, and I enjoyed the process of working on this with alcohol markers. For the most part, there were some hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I think he actually looks pretty okay, as I notice some areas here. But I think I will try my best to edit down the video a little bit, just because there were some pauses and stuff that I find that it kind of wasn't necessary to the process. So I'll try to streamline everything, but still leave it very long and still showing a lot of the process in general. It'll just be like minor things I'll edit out. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video of watching me work on Sunday with alcohol markers on the Shikishi board. And I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!